The Buddha and his perception of God. One of the questions the most people asked the Buddha during his lifetime was about God. However, he always resorted to silence whenever and wherever God was discussed. This means he never told anyone God exists, nor did he say he doesn't. He meant the whole of human life was too short or insufficient to attain a complete knowledge about a subject as com- comprehensive as God. So he always advised it was unwise for us to hanker after the Almighty, whom we won't be able to see him in our lifetime. We should rather attempt to embody our mind and eliminates its यहाँ कतै बोलिसक्यो trivialities, trying to establish peace and satisfaction in our soul. In this very world, instead of dreaming of heaven after death, once it so happened that the Buddha broke his silence about God and uttered some mutually contradictory things which were primarily worth contemplating, inspiring, full of lessons. He was in a village where men walked up to him and asked about God. This was not a new question for him. The man folded both of his hands and expressed the pang of his mind. Assertive, I have deep, deep faith in God. I feel his existence wherever, so I am a believer. On hearing this, the Buddha was seldom expressed anything about God, was inspired to speak on the issue by a strange sense of urgency. He instantly said, God, there's no God. Who told you there's one? It's a lie. I have researched enough. My, con- my conclusion is that there's no God. Everything else exists, but God doesn't. So, by becoming a theist, you are cheating yourself. On getting such an answer from the Buddha, he was dumbfounded. What he believed was a blessed soul like the Buddha would easily admit the existence of God and thus support his own convictions, thus eliminating every ground for debate on the issue of God. However, these expectations were betrayed. What came out from the Buddha was a thing he had hardly expected. What he said broke his faith in God. This shocked not only him but also dismayed Ananda, who was there with him. He was driven into deep thoughts, considering what had inspired the Buddha to speak. So, when on other days he seldom volunteered to say anything about God. Similarly, Another man walked up to the Buddha another day. He, he prostrated in front of the Buddha and said in pleading voice, Your Holiness, I am an atheist. I don't believe in the existence of God. For me, there's no entity called God on earth. He had hardly finished his utterance when the Buddha said, What's that you are saying? You made a gross mistake by saying yourself an atheist. Who said there's no God? I too thought quite deep and inquired, God is very much there. Young men, we must accept his existence. We should never deride it. By choosing to become an atheist, you are making a mistake. You are rendering yourself insane. You still have time to redeem your mistake before it's too late. The man probably thought the Buddha would reinforce him atheism and advise him to be a stronger agnostic. However, nothing of the sort happened. This fate was shattered. He could not conjure the gods to contradict the Buddha. So, with a long face, he lumbered away from there. Like that previous day, Ananda was standing there. In fact, he always kept himself near to the Buddha, committed to his service all the time. The Buddha's word took him by surprise too. His mind grew heavy with thoughts as he could not understand why the Buddha chided an agnostic today, while he had himself refuted the presence of God the other day. So Ananda made up made up his mind to raise the question for the Buddha at an appropriate time. In the same evening, another plain looking man presented himself in front of the Buddha. He put off his question. O the merciful one, I am always troubled by an issue. I have not been able to find a solution to it. I have no knowledge about God. I have contemplated on the issue many times, but I have always failed to arrive at a convincing conclusions. I have no idea if God really exists, and if He does, I don't know what He looks like and what His forms are like. I am in a big confusion. What's your advice to me? The Buddha smiled and said, Forget everything you know about God and consider yourself utterly ignorant. Make no further attempt to learn anything more. Make yourself completely blank. I mean, become vacant, become void, sitting. An example the Buddha said, if the eyes are filled with tears, we won't see anything clearly. The more we make our eye devoid of tears, the clearer grows our vision. So you make yourself empty, like an empty glass. Don't allow any preconceived doctrine to eclipse the mirror. Just be patient. Do not approach any guru, teacher to learn anything on the subject. Henceforth, the gurus will tell you various things about God, and you will be in a spell of more confusion. Do not stick a single belief about God anymore because the subject itself is like that. No one has acquired concrete knowledge about it till date. Ananda, who remained beside the Buddha all the time, was stirred by the statement even more. A storm brewed in his mind, hearing contradictory statements about God the Buddha gave at different times. He could hardly contain the turmoil tickling his mind. He started ask- asking himself, what does the Buddha mean? In 2 days, he gave three replies that contradict one another. This is beyond tolerance. Sabasta, I am in confusion. He said, he said to the Buddha, you gave three answers about God in 2 days, and they call all contradictory in, in themselves. Last morning you said there is no God. This morning you retracted and said there's one. Just a moment ago, you said nothing about God's existence but exposed yourself as empty of onion. What is this you are doing? I am at loss. I am in real confusion. On hearing Anand, the Buddha smiled and said, Ananda, why are you in confusion? I have said nothing to you. Moreover, the question was not yours. Why do you take an answer I gave to someone else? I answered people according to the questions they asked me. This stirred Ananda even more. He folded both his hands and said, Bante, Bante, do not push me into further uncertainty. The answer you gave them still ring in my ears. I am not a thief, Monte. Trying to convince Ananda, the Buddha said, look, Ananda, I understand the state of your mind. Do not take the answer that is given to someone else. People have their own level of listening and understanding things. It's possible that the advice given to one doesn't work for another. Look, look, all I did is that I get different answers as you regardlessly pointed out. By giving three, three different answers to three people, all I did is push them away from the positions where they were. In fact, whatever they learned so far was not enough, so I had hit on their heads with hammer, provoking them to more even further. I stirred the atheists by saying God exists, while I disturbed the believer by saying there's no God. To the one who knew nothing about God, I inspired him to know him to be more blank instead of being an atheist or a believer. And by doing that, I provoked him to research more on the issue. Both believers and non-believers usually remain stubborn. stubborn. They are of similar nature and hold on to their own beliefs and convictions, making them making them friends becomes quite a difficult task. We cannot, however, remain silent simply because they are obstinate. For me, the third man who is neither sure of God's presence nor about his absence is the best man. So I told him to even more blank and consciously spectacle the ambassador he becomes, the more he becomes inclined towards research. He will at last be more curious to know what exists beyond this knowledge and will commit himself to more research and study. If anyone is convinced that God exists or doesn't, he will not be propelled by the need of make future research. On the contrary, one who is skeptical is usually curious and is tempted towards research and becomes dynamic. Materially, such a seeker ventures into uncertainty to discover something. Though he moves along an uncertain road, he will come near the Almighty at last, because there is no other entity as obscure as the Almighty. This answer from the Buddha convinces every one of us that if we go on emptying our mind and develop the tendency of research, we shall move from darkness to light, as the adage says, Tamasoma Jyotri Gamya. From darkness lead me to light and move near to the Almighty.